So a new Primarch has returned to Warhammer 40K. Here we have Lionel Johnson, Primarch of the Dark Angels, reborn in a beautiful plastic miniature and shown off in all his glory. Hello and welcome back to Warspecs Tactics, where today all of Games Workshop's teasers are coming to a head. We've got the new Primarch of the Dark Angels. Lionel Johnson is finally confirmed to be alive and kicking in the 41st millennium, and no doubt ready to send the forces of Vashtor, Abaddon and Angron packing. This is really quite a big deal within Warhammer 40k. So far we've only had 4 Primarchs come back so far, now 5 I guess, and only one of them a loyalist in Guilliman. It's going to have some pretty big narrative implications, and I think I'm particularly interested to see how Guilliman and the Lion are going to interact on the Imperial side, two brothers nominally of equal stature. First up, obviously the big news is the miniature itself. I must admit I think they've done a really nice job with this one. It looks utterly spectacular. The Knight of Caliban returning in all of his glory, armed with a sword and shield, ready to slay the monsters of the galaxy. The miniature itself is about the same size as Guilliman. It seems that while the Demon Primarchs have swollen to immense sizes, they're still just keeping the very big normal human stature that they have. Still far bigger than any normal Space Marine, of course, and they did have a few shots of him fighting alongside the Dark Angels, which we'll take a look at in a second. They've confirmed a few really interesting details about him. Apparently the sword that he has isn't the Lion sword, that one is still held by Cypher, as it had been for a while. I guess they're in a bit of an awkward situation where Cypher would have to have his model changed if the Lion were to take that back, but it seems that that's not happening, I suppose. In his other hand, he bears the Emperor's shield as well. I guess if Rabute Guilliman is going to have a relic of the Emperor himself, then the Lion may as well get one as well. I can only imagine that if Guilliman's kind of hard to take down with his Armour of Fate, actually having the literal shield of the Emperor to protect you is probably going to be a good thing for him surviving in-game. Overall, I think that the miniature is really nicely balanced, nice and suitably blingy for a Primarch, but not so over the top that the miniature is too cluttered, I think. He looks like a pretty awesome centerpiece for a Dark Angels army. I really like the contrast between the different greens that they've used, and there's a good balance between his ornate weaponry, flowing cloak, and the other little extra details on the base. He seems to be accompanied by 2 Watchers in the Dark here, one of them carrying a scabbard and one of them carrying a scepter. I also think that Games Workshop have actually managed to get his face really quite nice. I feel like faces often tend to be a pretty weak point of Warhammer 40k miniatures, maybe something that just doesn't really fit quite as well with the rest of the model. It might partly be the paint job, but I think he looks suitably imposing there. He does very much have the air of a wizened old veteran at 10 millennia in the making, newly awoken to fight against chaos once again. It's pretty cool as well that they've confirmed he's got 4 different head options that we'll take a look at in just a second. It means that you can have him with a helmet on if you want to, and 2 different hooded variants as well. That's more than they usually do for most models. Here's just a few more shots of him from other angles. I think his backpack is kind of fun. It looks like it's got sort of stylized angel wings hanging out behind it, covering the exhaust ports and things. You can see a bit of a better image of his sword as well, a couple of close-ups of the Watchers, and you can see the embossed eagle on the Emperor's shield. I guess that's rendered in gold to fit in with the Emperor's heraldry as opposed to that of the Dark Angels. Next, here are the 4 different heads that he's got. The standard mustachioed and bearded one I think is really quite cool. You can have him in a Sinister Dark Angels hood, really iconic for the chapter. You can combine the hood with a helmeted head as well. And then you can go for full-on winged helm, maybe fitting in with Azrael's Lion Helm miniature. I don't know whether he has taken that back just for a little while. I do think that that's really quite a nice touch to give so many different head options on the model. It really does change the character of them, and for a big showy centerpiece model like this, I think that's really quite cool. Release-wise, we don't know how much this guy's going to cost yet. I'd guess he's going to be at least fairly pricey. Games Workshop do like to charge a premium for their character sculpts, and a Primarch is about as premium a model as you can get from them. Currently, at time of recording, Rabute Guilliman is £42.50, €55 or $70. I must admit though, I feel like by modern Games Workshop standards, he's on the cheaper side for what I would have expected for a Primarch, even if that's admittedly still quite a bit for a plastic miniature. I really wouldn't be too surprised if he wound up being a bit more than that, but hopefully Games Workshop stick to their previous pricing strategy. They haven't said anything about him appearing in a big box set at the moment. Hopefully he'll just wind up being an individual release and not trying to paywall him behind a massive Versus set, as they did with Vashtor and Azrael. For the release date, that's very much not confirmed yet, but the Arcs of Omen books have been coming out roughly every 2 to 4 weeks so far, and it seems like he'll be likely here by late April or early May. The Farsight book goes up for pre-order this weekend, So in theory that should mean that we've got less than 4 weeks to wait after that until the Lion book goes on preview as well. I guess now that means that we've got 2 different miniatures for the Lion, the Heresy one and the newer one. The Heresy one did go down pretty well with people as well. It'll be interesting to see which one people prefer out of these two. Let me know down in the comments which one of these you prefer and why. I think they're both pretty cool, to be honest. I feel like I'm probably on the camp of the 40k one over the Heresy one, though maybe not by that much. Maybe I might be slightly being swayed by the paint scheme on the new one. I feel like that deep green and the other Deathwing tones maybe wins it for me a bit more than the black from the Heresy. They have given us a small scale comparison as well between him, Rebute Gilliman, and an Intercessor. As you can see, is about the same sort of stature as Gilliman and a bit bigger than the Intercessor. I feel like maybe they haven't quite lined these up perfectly, but I guess gives you a rough idea for the scale of him. Perhaps a better picture for that might be this one, Lionel Johnson fighting alongside his Dark Angel's brethren. As you can see, significantly bigger and more chunky than a Primaris aggressor. I guess he is gaining a little bit of height and stature from the obligatory tactical rock, and here it seems a tactical skeleton as well. I think perhaps some of the most interesting things about the release will be the lore of his return. It's going to be coming out alongside Arcs of Omen the Lion. This is the last book in the Arcs of Omen series after Farsight. We kind of knew that this one was coming with all the teasers that they had. This book is probably going to be the last one of 9th edition. They confirmed he has been sleeping on the rock for thousands of years. And in the lore for the previous ones, they'd set up the Dark Angels to have a great big conflict against Abaddon and Vashtor. The Dark Angels are going to be lured to the Somnium Stars, perhaps with reports of the Fallen, or just in general to try and bait them out so that Chaos can take the key fragment from the rock. And I guess somehow amidst that conflict, the Lion's going to choose to return, either to wake up or to return from the stars wherever he's been, reuniting with the Dark Angels chapter and a big showdown against Chaos alongside the Dark Angels' successors and Dante. On the Chaos side, we're going to have Angron, Vashtor and Abaddon. I guess we'll get to see the culmination of Vashtor's plots to try and become the next Chaos God. I guess he's going to fail seeing as he's got a miniature, but who knows? I guess that could wind up being his avatar or something in the future. They haven't told us a whole load about the whole narrative and how exactly Mr. L. Johnson is going to make his reappearance, but they did confirm a couple of things from the lore of the book. They are going to be purging some Nurgle demons at some point, and he'll have a 1 versus 1 against Angron at some stage, teased in a cool image. A little bit of a Primarch versus Primarch battle there. Finally, it's going to be very interesting to see how he fares in-game in Warhammer 40k. With 10th edition on the horizon, any rules that he gets in 9th edition are probably going to be fairly short-lived. I guess it's probably going to be something akin to Gilliman on his basic stats, a movement of 8 inches, strength and toughness 6, and 9 wounds, so he will get character protection. It'll be kind of funny to see whether they still keep the monster keyword for Mr. L. Johnson as Gilliman gets it, though I understand that he likes to say that he's not a monster, he's just misunderstood. Another question is whether or not he'll get the Supreme Commander keyword. My guess is that he probably would, but if so, that could be kind of interesting to see whether or not he's just going to be leading the Dark Angels chapter and no one else, or whether he can go a bit Lord Commander of the Imperium like Gilliman can, and lead basically any Imperial army with the authority of a Primarch. My guess would be that he'll have some pretty mad buffs for Dark Angels nearby, but perhaps compared with Gilliman he might be a little bit more of a combat-slanted character, a hero to put down at the enemy's brightest and best, and perhaps a little bit less heavy on the reroll auras than Gilliman, who's famed for writing the Codex Astartes. It seems quite likely that Games Workshop will probably issue a digital rules download for him, not unlike Azrael and Vashtor, as opposed to printing it in any book. It'll be fun to take a look at that, and I'll certainly review it on the channel when we get it. So, a new Primarch returned to Warhammer 40k. Let me know what you think of him down in the comments below. I'll certainly be looking forward to talking through the other Warhammer 40k reveals from the stream, so feel free to check back later if you'd like to see more. Subscribe to Auspex Tactics for more like this, or you'll see more 40k videos every single day. Finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention that Auspex Tactics does have a Patreon page as well, and that's the thing that supports me to make videos like this quite so regularly, with new content just about every single day for you guys to watch. If you have been enjoying the videos quite a bit on the channel, any support is massively appreciated. Channel patrons do get a fair few advantages, seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things come next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, the link is down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.